Hey, welcome to World Code Updates. Please subscribe to my channel and press the bell icon for more updates. The BRP Sierra Madre, a rusting Philippine naval vessel, sits grounded on 2nd Thomas Shoal in the South China Sea. A Philippine supply boat approaches, carrying essentials and new troops. But a massive Chinese Coast Guard ship blocks its path, sending a clear warning. The Chinese vessel dwarfs the Filipino boat, maneuvering aggressively and blaring its horn. The Filipino crew presses on, determined to complete their mission and assert their nation's sovereignty. Cameras capture the tense encounter, broadcasting it worldwide. This is the front line of a high-stakes geopolitical struggle. Such confrontations are now routine, with Chinese ships frequently harassing Filipino vessels. China's maritime militia uses water cannons, lasers, and dangerous maneuvers to enforce its claims. For the Philippines, it's a daily fight to defend their territory against a superpower. The Sierra Madre, a relic of World War II, has become a symbol of resistance. The world watches with growing concern, as the South China Sea is a vital artery for global trade. Trillions in commerce pass through these waters each year. The standoff at 2nd Thomas Shoal is more than a local dispute. It's a test of international law and a sign of China's rising power. The tension here reverberates in Manila, Beijing, and Washington. What happens in these waters could reshape alliances and the global balance of power. The stakes could not be higher. At the heart of the conflict is China's 9-dash line, a sweeping claim over nearly the entire South China Sea. Beijing insists on historical rights to these waters, overlapping the exclusive economic zones of its neighbors. In 2016, the Philippines won a landmark case at The Hague, which ruled China's claim had no legal basis under international law. China rejected the ruling, calling it waste paper, and instead accelerated its island building and military expansion. Massive artificial islands now serve as fortified outposts, projecting Chinese power far from its shores. This defiance of international law has destabilized the region and alarmed global powers. The 9-dash line is more than a map. It's a declaration of China's intent to dominate the South China Sea. The world is watching how far Beijing will go. The South China Sea dispute isn't just about China and the Philippines. Vietnam, Malaysia, and Brunei also have overlapping claims, with vital resources and food security at stake. 1/3 of global shipping, over $3 trillion annually, passes through these waters. Any conflict here would disrupt global trade and threaten economic stability worldwide. Smaller Southeast Asian nations can't confront China alone, so they seek support from regional forums and outside powers. China's economic leverage often divides ASEAN, leaving countries to balance economic ties with Beijing against defending their own rights. The US steps in as a counterweight, conducting freedom of navigation operations to challenge China's claims. This American presence reassures some, but also raises the stakes in the region. The South China Sea is now a flashpoint with global consequences. The US-Philippine alliance is anchored by the 1951 Mutual Defense Treaty. For years, its scope was unclear. Would it cover attacks in the South China Sea? As China's aggression grew, Washington clarified the treaty applies to armed attacks on Philippine forces or vessels anywhere in the South China Sea. This security guarantee emboldened Manila to defend its maritime rights more assertively. Under President Marcos Jr., the alliance has deepened, with expanded joint exercises and US access to more Philippine bases. The old alliance is being upgraded for a new era of strategic competition. The US presence deters China and complicates Beijing's calculations. For the Philippines, it's a vital shield against overwhelming pressure. The renewed partnership is reshaping the region's security landscape. The stakes for both nations have never been higher. For decades, Subic Bay and Clark Air Base symbolized America's military might in the Philippines. In the 1990s, Filipino nationalism and the end of the Cold War led to the US withdrawal. The bases closed, marking a new era of Philippine sovereignty. But China's rise and assertiveness in the South China Sea have changed the calculus. The Philippines' strategic location is once again crucial to US interests. Today, the US returns, not with permanent bases, but through rotational deployments under the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement, or EDCA. U.S. forces now pre-position equipment and operate from Philippine facilities, adapting to new threats. The ghosts of Subic and Clark return as strategic partners, not occupiers. This flexible presence strengthens deterrence against China. The partnership is evolving to meet the challenges of a new era. Geography and history have brought the two allies back together. The stakes are higher than ever. The Philippines sits at the heart of the first island chain, a strategic barrier stretching from Japan to Borneo. For China, this chain restricts its navy's access to the Pacific. For the U.S., it's a defensive line to monitor and, if needed, contain Chinese expansion. The Philippines' proximity to Taiwan and the South China Sea makes it indispensable for both sides. U.S. access to bases in northern Philippines would be critical in any Taiwan conflict. The country's geography allows rapid response to crises and surveillance of Chinese activities. China sees the U.S. return as a direct threat to its ambitions. Control of the first island chain is a zero-sum game for Washington and Beijing. The Philippines is now one of the world's most important strategic crossroads. The Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement, or EDCA, is the legal framework for the U.S. military's return. It allows U.S. forces to use and upgrade Philippine bases, but not establish permanent ones. Initially, 5 sites were designated. Now, there are 9, including locations near Taiwan and the Spratly Islands. The U.S. is investing millions to modernize these bases, improving runways, ports, and storage. These upgrades benefit both militaries and support disaster relief in a typhoon-prone nation. For the U.S., dispersed sites make its forces less vulnerable to Chinese missile strikes. The network of bases allows rapid, flexible response to any crisis. For the Philippines, it means a stronger, modernized military at little cost. The EDCA blueprint is about access, resilience, and readiness. It's a strategic shift with far-reaching implications. The U.S. military is shifting to a new strategy, Agile Combat Employment, or ACE. Instead of large, vulnerable bases, the U.S. now disperses forces across smaller, unpredictable locations. EDCA sites in the Philippines are key spokes in this network, complicating China's targeting and response. In a Taiwan crisis, U.S. jets and surveillance planes could launch from northern Philippines, shortening response times. The U.S. Marine Corps is also adapting, deploying mobile units with anti-ship missiles to remote islands. The goal turned the first island chain into a series of kill zones that threaten Chinese naval operations. This distributed approach deters aggression and shifts the regional balance of power. The Philippines' geography is central to this new playbook. Agile combat employment is changing how wars in the Pacific would be fought. The U.S. is betting on speed, flexibility, and unpredictability. The stakes for deterrence and for peace are enormous. From Beijing's perspective, the U.S. return to the Philippines is a direct threat. Chinese officials call it an act of encirclement, accusing Washington of using Manila as a pawn. The new EDCA sites, especially near Taiwan, are seen as preparations for U.S. intervention in a future conflict. China warns the Philippines not to get dragged into a Taiwan crisis, framing the alliance as a danger to Philippine security. In the South China Sea, U.S. forces can now monitor and challenge Chinese activities more closely. Beijing sees this as foreign interference and a setback to its regional ambitions. China's efforts to pull the Philippines into its orbit have faltered in the face of direct security threats. The renewed U.S.-Philippine alliance frustrates and alarms Beijing. China is likely to respond with both diplomatic and military measures. The region is entering a new, more dangerous phase of great power rivalry.